Yo, welcome back YouTube to my free-to-play account where I am only using SR and R characters and Lian and Linglo because they're also free-to-play. Lian is from the main character, and of course you get Linglo at the end of this 7-day commission. Now this is how far my account has progressed. As you can see, I've pretty much cleared everything up to my level. I've done Teramaton and Doki Doki up to Hard 3, which is the highest until level 25 when Nightmare unlocks. And I've done pretty much all of the hard shells with quite ease, as well as doing some Anasync Echoes and just the other events and stuff like that. Now, the progression has been pretty smooth, mostly because I have knowledge going into this account and this challenge. But, mostly I'm just doing this to prove that you can clear pretty much all of the PvE without, having Lily or even some SSRs that are very good. So this is how my team has actually came to be about. Currently I'm using Lian as my damage dealer. I'll most likely drop her after the Hyperlink Charter and use something like a Blue Rin or Diting, which I didn't pull yet, but Diting is a very good SR DPS, one of the best single targets in the game, so definitely when I get him I'll switch over. I'm using Gray as my defense breaker because he is the best free-to-play option alongside Dinah. But I'm building Gray first because he has this crit rate buff, which is super helpful in the early game, and he's going to be very crucial in my Doki Doki clears. Now I will eventually build Dinah and use her as well because she's very good in Aurora and also for Teramaton and a lot of areas of content that Gray is bad in. But for now, Gray is my defense down character. Now, I'm also using Chiaki the Echo as my third team member, and she's a very good substitute, and I'll probably be using her the entirety of this account progression. Mostly because I don't have Lily and I can't use Lily, right? And she's very good because she has a turn meter push, so she pushes her entire team, and she also has a ton of attack buffs to your team with a Purify. Now she's not the same as Lily. Lily's way better at buffing a single DPS, but Chiaki the Echo is definitely going to be very strong in a lot of content because she's constantly pushing my turn meter. I think she's extremely powerful, and you'll see that I actually rushed into maxing her S3 because she gets so much value by having a short cooldown on her S3 here. Now I'm also running Vice. Vice is going to be probably one of the best healers I can run, and even if you're not free to play, he's an extremely powerful character that you do want to use. And you're going to see that I rushed maxing his skills as well. So I rushed his S1 and S2. And I do plan to max his S3 eventually once I get more of these micro lattices, which you can get from the Union shop and Arena shop and stuff like that. And it's very good to max him because he doesn't share any lattice with SR characters, and there's not a lot of R characters that I'm going to use in this game. This character is pretty much solo carrying me right now because when you max his S2, he actually will not only heal himself but heal an ally. And if you're looking at the clip on your screen here, you can see that in this Teramaton run for Hard 3, he is basically solo healing my entire team. Whenever they're about to die, he can literally just top them off by just using his S1 because he relies on inflicting a debuff, and if he does, he heals himself and any excess healing will go to an ally, which makes him super strong. Also, you can see that his S1 has this taunt, which is the debuff that will proc his heal. Super strong at locking down bosses. When I was fighting Whitney and Anasync Echoes, usually it's very hard for early game players. He just locked down the boss, and instead of resummoning the ads with her ultimate ability, you can see that he just locks her down and forces her to do nothing but attack him, which makes him an extremely powerful character for not just the early game, not just for free-to-play characters or free-to-play accounts, but literally just in the entire game. So very OP character. He's definitely like an SSR in disguise, and of course he has this S3, which has an AoE attack down, which is super strong, and a turn meter pushback. I do plan to max him out, like I said. He is pretty easy to max out with micro lattices. I just have to wait for the reset basically, but he's super strong. Just a side note though, guys, if you do plan to use Vice, especially just in the early game or just in general, you do need effect accuracy on him so his debuffs land. Because he relies on his debuffs landing to actually heal, you want to make sure you have effect accuracy, and the easiest way to do this is going to be these right side pieces, these cores, the ones that you get on the right side. They have a chance to get effect accuracy %. So you want to actually keep these and then put them on your Vice for now, and that way he will have a higher chance to actually land his debuffs. And of course you can upgrade it to increase the main stat of the effect accuracy, and this will make it so that your debuffs land even more, in turn making him heal more, which is very important. If you don't have effect accuracy, you'll see that he is pretty bad because if you don't land your debuffs, he does nothing. So, if you do want to use Vice, just a side note, please make sure that you look to see if you have any of these effect accuracy pieces and just upgrade them. That way you can actually make sure that you will land your debuffs and he'll actually do his job. Now for my 5th slot, it's pretty much my flex spot at the moment. Usually I recommend new players, if you're playing, just to have 4 built characters because shells only have 4 slots. And for your 5th slot, when you're doing like campaign or you're doing Terramaton or Doki Doki for your threshold farming or other areas of content like Anasync Echoes, you can slot in whatever you need. Currently I'm rotating between Kazumi Kazuyo because she has a speed buff for my team, which I'm very, very much lacking. And she also has a single target speed down. So in a way, she will make me take a lot more turns and stop the enemy from taking a lot of turns. She's kind of like a good substitute to Lily with her speed buff. Also, I'm running Sanya if I need dispels. Even though Vice can dispel, Sanya is a lot better with her Purify on her S2. If I'm looking for more damage mitigation, I'm using Viper because of his passive and also because he can dispel and put speed down, which is very good. He does overlap attack down with my Vice, but it is okay. I'm mostly using him for the speed down. I can also slot in a Valerian here because she does provide me with shielding and extra buffing, although I'm not really using her that much because she's pretty bad until you max out her S3. And I do plan to also incorporate Catchy the Guard once I do max out his S3. I don't think he's really worth it in the early game to invest into though, because even though you'll see him used a lot in the late game, in the early game he's pretty bad until you max out his S3 and until you get like red pieces with all effect accuracy. So because of that, I'll probably bench him for a bit, but this is how the team is shaping out. And Vice and Chiaki are carrying me super, super hard right now. They are just a super insane duo. You have one to give your team attack buff, to cycle your team very quick. Then I have Vice here to just do pretty much everything else. Heal my team, taunt the enemies, and just, make them do a lot less damage and turn me to pushback. But yeah, that is basically what my team has shaped out to. Now, in the early game, I think the most important thing to go for is Prowess. So I've been farming a lot of GP outposts, and I've just been getting all of these stat bonuses from these nodes. This is extremely important to do on your 4 main characters. You want to pretty much max out everything up until you have to spend lattice. Whether you spend the lattice or not, it depends on your character and your team, but you definitely want to do all of these beforehand because it just gives you a ton of stats here. For example, if I look at, Kazuyo, you're just getting a ton of attack just by doing this. All you have to do is spend this currency. You might think, oh, it's a hassle to farm. Just do it. It makes your team a lot tankier and a lot more sturdy and do a ton more damage as well. So basically, I did Prowess for everything for that. And then I decided to spend my purple lattice, like I said, onto my Chiaki the Echo. If you don't have Lily and you have Chiaki the Echo, this is a really good investment because you can use her into Doki Doki, which is like the hard area of content to farm. And in general content, she's going to be insane. And you can see, of course, my Vice is also going to be pretty much maxed out because, like I said, he is my main healer until I unlock Linglo. Now, for shells. So this is like the piece of gear that people overlook. People think modules is just what you want to go for, which it is. Following your hyperlink charter, you want to, do what you need to do to get your quests done. You also want to pretty much max out your really good right side pieces with crit damage and crit rate and attack percent for your DPSs and like HP percent for your supports. But more importantly, you want to activate your matrices, right? Go for like Swift Rush 12 on your supports like Vice and Chiaki here, and then Onslaught for your damage dealers. I have Gray on Swift Rush because he is like a hybrid DPS support, right? But what I wanted to say is your shells, they are like the most important thing to focus on early. So you're gonna see my 4 main characters have these purple shells pretty much maxed. Not maxed, but level 20, level 30. This is something that you need to do. You get a ton of basic stats, and you get these passives that you can roll for very cheap early on in the epics that will really help you out. So I definitely recommend doing this. If you're feeling that you're dying too fast or lacking damage, just upgrade your shells like I did. And what I did to do that was I actually farmed a pate, and I also farmed Karuru. And this gave me a lot of shells that I used to actually awaken them. You don't want to just level them to 10. What you want to do with your shells is you want to go and upgrade them by awakening them with or sending them, I guess, by using the same shell. So definitely important to do. I think it's something that a lot of people overlook. Now, since I'm only doing SRs basically, besides Linglo and Lian because they're free to play, I've only been buying the purple lattices, but I definitely recommend buying the gold ones as well because these are going to be way more limited later on. Purples will feel pretty plentiful in the early game, and they do kind of, you know, get less later on, but gold lattices, the perfect lattices, will be the biggest thing that will, you know, hinder your progress. Not hinder your progress, but hinder your character building. So you definitely want to make sure you buy these. They are super important to buy if you're not following my free-to-play route. And what I mean by that is, you know, if you're not only planning to use SRs. But yeah, for me, it's a little bit easier because, you know, I did spend a lot on these micro lattices and stuff like that, and these purple lattices early on because I don't really plan to buy these. But, you know, you still want to buy, I think, the micro lattices. These are very cheap and will make your Vice super strong. Definitely join a union as well. You get a ton of rewards. You can buy other stuff. And for now, what I plan to do is farm Fabian. So I'm going to farm Fabian here to get these shells. I'm probably going to get a lot of black flags and Twilight Knights. And once I get into Nightmare here, I'm going to start farming one of these diamond hearts, mostly for the shield. This is like, if you're in the late game, it's pretty much like Artisan, but worse, but still very good. So that is my plan. So, you know, so far, smooth sailing, just going through my Hyperlink charter, doing everything I need to do. And basically, you know, in the early game, you're mostly going to just be farming GP outposts for the most part to upgrade your prowess. And then, of course, make sure your shells are up to date, because shells are the most important piece of gear. You're not going to really go into Threshold except to do quests, because the game does throw a lot of, you know, pieces for you, a lot of good matrix modules for you in the early game that you can just use to enhance. But don't go too crazy. You do still want to save some of your currency. So that is what I've been doing the past 2 days on this account. This is day 2 of this account, and I've gotten this far. Like I said, the end goal of this account is to get to Inferno, and I do have a pretty good idea of what teams I'm going to use, and I think I'll be able to do it pretty easily, to be honest, because these characters are very fun to use, but they're also very strong. I'm very surprised how strong Chiaki is. Even though it's the early game, I can just see how much of an impact she has. But yeah, thank you for watching, guys. I'll show you guys actually my Fabian farming run in case you are new to the game. You're wondering how it actually goes with my team comp. You can see I'm actually battling it in the background, so I'll show you guys at the end of the video with no commentary because it's pretty straightforward, right? You're just hitting the boss. But if you guys enjoy this series and want to see more, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next video.